Discover Canada Tours does well over $1 million in annual sales year after year. And notice how they've avoided direct competition with the hundreds of other tour operators in Vancouver. Hi there, my name is Kelsey Toner. I'm the founder of Guest Focus, and welcome back to our series on the 7 most common and costly mistakes that tour operators make when they're trying to grow their profits and sell more tours. In this series, I'm also presenting you with a brand new opportunity that instead of making these mistakes, you can follow the simple, no-nonsense guidelines and practical solutions offered by our Guest Focus formula. By the end of this series, I'm going to show you that your success doesn't come down to having the right software, the right tools, or the latest marketing hacks, but instead, the single most effective path to building a thriving, profitable tour business comes down to putting guest experience at the heart of everything you do. I'll introduce you to some of the superstars in our community, and you'll see the results that are possible with the Guest Focus formula. I'm excited to share their stories to inspire you to take action and to join our rebellion against mediocre mass tourism, because we are guest focused and we are unforgettable. If you haven't seen the previous videos in this series, I highly recommend you go back and watch them in order. You might get a little confused if you jump right into the middle. Today's costly mistake that may be preventing you from selling more tours is generic tour design. I have such a distinct memory on my first visit to Victoria Falls in Zimbabwe. It was an incredible experience, but I remember walking up and down the strip and I saw sign after sign after sign that simply said Victoria Falls Tours, Victoria Falls Tours, walking tour of Victoria Falls, walking tour of Victoria Falls. So many of these tours were virtually identical. There was no differentiation between them, and there was no effort to serve different niches or different visitors, or to recognize that perhaps some people wanted to go to the falls and do something daring, like sit in that devil's pool that's just hanging over the falls. Some other people might be interested in going to learn about the geology. Others might be more interested in the natural wildlife or the history and human impact on Victoria Falls. There are countless ways that we can specialize our tours, countless ways that we can differentiate ourselves from competitors. But many tour business owners out there simply aren't doing this, as you've seen over the last videos, by choosing an ideal target guest and taking the time to understand and empathize with what they need, want, desire, and what their pain points, frustrations, and challenges are. You now have everything you need to move away from generic tour design, to out-care your competition and do tour and activity design that is smarter than anyone else in your destination. Let me share the story of Clint and his team at Discover Canada Tours. They're based in Vancouver, Canada. And early on, Clint noticed that some of the people who were coming on their excursions were actually students of a local ESL school, an English as a Second Language academy, where people from around the world would come to Vancouver to study English. And it's not just about learning a language. They wanted to get out and experience those beautiful mountains. And for many, some of the tours, activities, and experiences that Discover Canada Tours were offering were their first experiences in the snow. So Clint followed up with those students and eventually got introductions to some of the staff at these schools. Now notice what Discover Canada Tours did next. They started adjusting the design of their tours to better suit these ESL clients. They ended up getting larger vehicles to accommodate class trips. They changed the departure days and departure times to better accommodate the class schedule of the students. They eventually had representatives from Discover Canada who would go to these schools and be available to answer questions for students, to help get them registered and give them options for upcoming tours. All of this shows how they leveraged their knowledge of their ideal target guest to change the design of their tours, activities, and experiences. Discover Canada Tours does well over $1 million in annual sales year after year. And notice how they've avoided direct competition with the hundreds of other tour operators in Vancouver. So if you have avoided the previous costly mistakes that we outlined, then you've already set yourself up for success. You have an ideal target guest, and you've taken the time to try to understand and appreciate what they're looking for and what they're not looking for. At this point, it's time to mine your guest deep dive. Let's look at a quick example at how this might be done. One of the tour businesses we worked with was interested in improving their bachelorette experiences, and they saw this was an opportunity. Now, we encouraged them to go back to their guest deep dive and look at each frustration challenge or pain point and think about how that might be a possible feature or benefit for their tour activity or experience. In the same way, because they asked the dream scenario question in their guest deep dive, we could review those responses to find out what a dream scenario would be for these bachelorettes. Here's an example of some of the responses they got in the survey. A direct quote from a guest was, "Another thing that's proving challenging is finding activities that have an all-inclusive price with the alcohol included." This was a challenge for those bachelorette groups who obviously wanted alcohol, but they didn't want to be paying for everything separately. What a headache. So a possible feature for their new tours, activities, and experiences for bachelorette groups was tasting fees and alcohol included. We described it as leave your wallet at home. You focus on the fun and we'll take care of the tab the whole afternoon. Notice how we're getting inspiration for how the tour can work directly from what our guests have told us. Here is another objection or concern that came up. Transportation is going to be too hard or complicated. I'm not sure how we're going to organize transport to the different tours, activities. It's a pain to order lots of Ubers, especially splitting the costs. Okay, some interesting insight into the dynamics of these bachelorette experiences. So a possible feature was included pickup from your hotel or Airbnb. How we would describe that: we forget the pain of ordering a ton of Ubers and splitting the costs. We'll pick you up right from your hotel or Airbnb. One last example from our dream scenario question. This was another direct quote. "Honestly, my dream scenario would be a weekend where all the hassle is taken out of it and we just go out and have fun with great food, fun nights out, and brunches with bottomless mimosas." And that's clearly what we picked up on. Possible feature: bottomless mimosas. Here's how we described it. The best way to experience a relaxing time in Sydney Harbor: join us for our delicious, hassle-free brunch on the beach with bottomless mimosas. Hopefully you are starting to appreciate how simple and elegant the guest focus formula is. This isn't rocket science, but it is so rarely done. And I know some of you are probably doing something similar using your gut and intuition and your firsthand experience with your guests. That is completely okay. And as long as what you are doing aligns with the principles that we're laying out here with the guest focus formula, you are bound to have success. What we are looking to do with these tools, techniques, and tactics is lay out how you can accelerate that process and guarantee that you're going to have success with your tour design. Notice that this works as well when you're looking to iterate, improve, or better get product market fit with one of your existing tours, activities, and experiences. This isn't always about going back with an Etch-a-Sketch and starting from scratch. As an example, when I was taking over design of the Burgundy trip for Backroads Tours, it was one of the lowest scoring on the continent, and my job was to improve that tour design. I brought the same attention to detail to every single one of the feedback forms that we had got. And overwhelmingly, I heard from our guests that the days just felt too long. They didn't always directly say that, hey, there was too much stuff going on, but that they were tired at the end of the day. That at the end of the week, at the end of their Backroads holiday, it felt like they needed a holiday from their holiday. And so I paid careful attention to these guests' pain points, what they had communicated in their feedback surveys. And I was able to take out some of the programming. I was able to actually create more time for people to relax at the hotel. We created shorter options. We always had a regular option for those that were in active travel, wanted to bike, and then a long option for those people who just wanted to bike the whole day. But we hadn't really considered, what about those people who may want to just do a half day or just the morning and then spend the rest of the day relaxing poolside? I changed the way that we offered those days. We encouraged people to take some time to actually enjoy the incredible hotels and chateaus which we were staying. And just a couple years after paying careful attention and responding to this feedback, I was able to get this trip from one of the lowest scoring trips to one of the top scoring trips in all of Europe. So as you can see, guest-focused tour design can draw from many sources. If you have tours running already, we want to solicit feedback from those guests who have gone through the tours. What did they love? What did they hate? What could be improved? These types of questions will lead to all kinds of gems, and this should be seen as an iterative process as you move closer and closer to that product market fit. And we could dig deeper if we need to find out where we may have missed the mark or why they were so thoroughly impressed with the tour, activity, or our experience. But for those of you that are sitting there banging against the screen saying, Kelsey, but what about the creativity? What about all those incredible entrepreneurs out there who come up with best-selling tours that no guest would ever have requested? How does that fit into the guest focus formula? If you'll notice, that creativity and inspiration and incredible talent that so many of you have for coming up with compelling ideas is perfectly compatible with what we're saying here. However, you'll note, for it to resonate with your guests, we have to have it align with a desire, with a dream scenario, or helping them avoid a frustration or pain point. In our coaching program, with our coaches, we have over 150 years of experience in this industry, and we have an entire module on how to create unforgettable experiences. We introduce you to the concept of the unforgettable product pyramid with a step-by-step process for making your tours unforgettable, and hundreds of examples from around the world. We give you instructions on how to incorporate special moments, special people, and special access. 3 things that are universally beloved on tours. But you'll notice what is a special moment to one guest may not at all be interesting or special to another. And finally, we have a step-by-step process for coming up with a tour theme that can inspire and more fully deliver on the desires of your guests. One of those brilliant tour designers is Jamie, who is in our coaching program and runs tours in Nassau, Bahamas. He came up with this incredible idea of having a rum runners themed tour where his guests would be able to sample and taste some of the flavors of the incredible rums of the Bahamas while learning about the incredible history of rum running and its impact on Nassau. Notice how this perfectly aligned with the guests' desires to taste and explore the Bahamas on their visit. Notice how it more perfectly fulfilled their mission to learn about the history of Nassau and the Bahamian people, but through a particular lens and a highly impactful industry. This was creativity at its best, and Jamie has been rewarded and has consistently been one of his best-selling tours year after year. And so it's time to take action. If you feel that you've fallen into this mistake of designing overly generic tours, then we urge you to lean into your guest deep dive, your customer research, your intuitions from past guest experiences, the feedback and online reviews to look for possible features and benefits for your tour. We urge you to use your beautiful creativity to come up with more impactful and laser-focused ways to fulfill your guests' dream scenarios and give them the easy button to eliminate their pain points and frustrations. If you'd like some help with this process, or you'd love to access some of our resources when it comes to incredible tour design, or be inspired by hundreds of examples of unforgettable tours around the world, I personally invite you to book a strategy call with one of our coaches. These are free, they're 45 minutes long, super casual, and it's a way for us to help you get some results. You can learn more at guestfocus.com/book a call. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you in the next video where we explore the next mistake that might be holding you back.